All came back. Is it some haven't left? Is it the bench seating? Is it the chef demos? Is it the shade? Is it? Well, listen. Thank you very much for coming back. Thank you very much. You are at the cutting room stage of Metopia. This isn't chef demos. This is masterclasses from the best in the business, and they are here to show you how they do their thing. But you know, we need sponsorship to make these things happen. So just a bit of housekeeping. I just want to shout out again to our fantastic sponsors. First of all, everybody at this festival is cooking your delicious food on sustainable British charcoal by Whittle and Flame. Let's give it a shout out. Woo! Yeah, they're here to make us taste good. And listen, like I always say, if you've got to take one thing from this festival, it's always buy sustainable British charcoal. That is our mantra. Should we make that promise together? Go on, hands up, hands up. We are always going to buy, repeat after me. We are always going to buy British sustainable charcoal. Amen. Amen. There we go. Thank you. And then all our delicious refreshments have been by my brothers from another mother, my Welsh boys, Tiny Rebel. Are you all thoroughly watered? Yeah. Thoroughly thwarted, I was going to say that. And then we've got delicious Flying Goose Sriracha who have sponsored us as well. We've got fab cocktails and great whiskey from our friends at Jameson's. Mold and Sea Salt, they've sponsored this festival from day dot. And every chef always gets one of these to go home with. So we never, ever buy salt. So this is why they come back here, so they don't buy salt. And we've got these beautiful cast irons, we've got duchies, we've got pans from our friends at Petromax. So housekeeping done. Now I'm excited. I am excited. No, this is Metopia. Metopia really treated us this year. It's the 10th anniversary, and they've brought in the big guns. They've brought in like one of my barbecue heroes. So 10 years ago, even 12 years ago, when I was loving American barbecue, you looked to the States for these amazing pit masters. And the guy that I'm going to bring on is absolutely one of those heroes. Now, before I do, I've got to read some stats, because this is going to blow your mind. This is going to blow. Sorry, Tuff. Just hang out there a minute. No, I don't want to let the cat out the bag. I said his name. This guy has competed in 174 barbecue contests. He has won 42 grand champions. He has, if I can read it, he's won reserve grand champion 21 times, but you want the grand one. The reserve one is second place, right? Runner up. He's had 5 individual category world records, and he is overall 6th-time World Barbecue Championship. Come on, give me a Metopia welcome from Mr. Tuffy Stone! Tuffy.
Y'all are making me blush.
Tuffy, welcome.
Sam, thanks for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. Listen, I can see this. I got some good barbecue friends. Like, look at they're beaming as well. They're just as chuffed as me. We're so happy to have you here. I mean, you're a huge inspiration to all of us. But you've been cooking with the Holy Smoke Barbecue Boys up on the quay there, right?
Yeah, thanks to Yeti, they brought me over, and Meatopia was so kind to let me in, and I got to cook with my good friends at Holy Smoke.
Yeah, thank you, Yeti, by the way. I've been drinking out of a Yeti cup all weekend. Just water, of course.
You and
just
me
water.
Both.
So actually, we showed up yesterday, and the first thing I wanted to do was meet Tuffy. And so you've got the boys from Holy Smoke Barbecue just hanging out, chatting away. Tuffy is cooking all of the barbecue. He is just running back and forward. He's portioning it. And
Johan, do y'all hear that down there?
Yeah, Johan, get to work. Anyway, Tuffy, tell us, what's our masterclass today? What are you going to cook for us?
Well, first of all, I want to say, I get to travel all over the place, and because of cooking with fire and barbecue. But it's crazy to me. I've never been to the United Kingdom until the last couple of weeks, and what y'all are doing is just so. You talk about inspiration. I got so inspired coming over here. I've asked this question probably 20 times in the last 2 weeks. What is British barbecue? And I really liked the answer. It didn't matter if it was like grilling or hot and fast, or low and slow, or cooking sausages and hamburgers, or tomahawks, or doing a brisket. It was really about getting outdoors and lighting a fire, and it was about the people. I talked to two guys yesterday. Collectively, between the two of them, they had cooked 200 outdoor cooks last year between the two of them, 200 each. And I said, well, how many of them were in the rain? And it was quite a bit. So anyways, I get windy, and so I'm just going to apologize in advance. But I'm going to be doing the same dish that I did out of the station yesterday, which is just beef tri-tip. We reverse seared it. And I'm going to explain what that means. And I'm going to talk about the rub that I made. I'm going to talk about the condiments that I made for it. And I'm just going to talk about some of my guiding lights that are really important to me when I'm cooking with fire. But I'm going to pass these two beef tri-tips. Will go on the grill. We're going to cook them to about medium rare. It's more like a steak cut. If you're not familiar with beef tri-tip is right up in here somewhere on the cow. But it's a lovely cut of meat. Brittany, it's really popular in California. I'm from Virginia in the States, and beef tri-tip was not that common of a cut for a long time, but it's gotten more popular. I've talked to some butchers since I've been here in the UK, and it's starting to grow in popularity, but I still had some conversations over the course of the last few days where they're still not always finding it everywhere. So anyways, it's a great cut. It's shaped like a boomerang or a triangle, and the grain kind of goes towards the point. And it's really important that when we slice beef tri-tip, that we're going to slice against the grain.
Because that grain does change, doesn't it, Tuffy?
It does change.
It starts in one direction, then changes to the other because of that boomerang shape.
That's right. And you just use your eyes. I tend to cook with all my senses a lot. So I use my ears. I listen to the sizzle in the pan. I listen to the fire, I'm looking at smoke. I'm looking for clean smokes. But in this case, just watch the grain. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult when we're cooking a beef brisket, and we put some rub on there, and we put some smoke on there, and then we wrap it, and then we sauce it. And sometimes it can be really a challenge to kind of see where the grain is. So one of the things I do with brisket is I just do a cut right at the tip on the flat that's perpendicular to the grain, and then when I've gone through that whole cooking process, it's really easy for me to kind of figure out what the grain was. But what we did, because I think the most important thing with this demo is that everybody gets a sample, and so it would have taken too long if I did the whole process in front of you. So we've got these two beef tri-tips. Usually they're going to come with fat on one side. So you can leave that on if you prefer. With these kind of small tastings, I take the fat off. So we trimmed all the fat off, and then I made a very simple rub. You can find this recipe on my website, which is tuffystone.com. I like to sell my barbecue products, but more importantly, I like to teach. So I like to teach how to make a rub or teach how to make a sauce and how to use it. So this, if you want to make your own rub, I think one of the questions you ask is it going to have sugar in it or not? So if we were making a rub for like pork ribs, we would have some sugar on there. And
so why would we, Tuffy? Why would we choose not to have sugar in it? What does sugar do?
So this rub has no sugar, Sam, and it's very savory. It's very bold. It's got 5 ingredients in there. There's salt. I used Malden salt. Which, honestly speaking, it was a little bit of a learning lesson because usually when I make this rub, it's with kosher salt, and
it's a lot finer, isn't it?
It's a lot finer, and I actually had to we got a culinary term, kitchen term on the fly, and so I had to kind of make some adjustments with my recipe because it was just a little too celery seed forward, and I love celery seed. That's another ingredient that I've had told to me since I've been here that celery seeds hard to find and dill seeds hard to find, and I really love them both. But anyways, 5 ingredients. You can get the recipe for quantities. If you use Malden salt, the recipe's based around kosher salt, but the 5 ingredients are salt, black. Here he is, the man himself.
Has he come to do some work?
All right, this is Johan of Holy Smoke, and they're down there on the end, and I have had the pleasure of hanging with these guys, not only in Sweden, but this week here at Meatopia. anyways, they're doing amazing stuff. If you really saw that amazing double barrel pit all the way down at the end made by mill scale, they drug that 29 hours, I think, to get it here. So they really love you to come all the way from Sweden dragging a pit. Anyways, back to the rub. It's salt. It's cracked black pepper. There's some ancho chili powder in there, granulated garlic, and something that I lean on a lot, which is celery seed. I will make a white barbecue sauce with it, and in this case, it's with this rub.
But it's super savory, right?
Celery it's very savory. It's got a lot of pop.
That'll give you that forward punch of sort of almost like a little acidity, I guess.
And you're good, right? Yeah. All right. I can't talk and cook at the same time, so I have to rely on friends. All right.
He's listening.
Here's the problem. Yep. So when we make rubs, how do we use a rub? Well, first of all, when we make a rub, one of the things that we really need to do, I feel so bad y'all are looking in the sun. Let's see. All right. Okay. Anyways, when you make a rub, I want really fresh spices. So when I'm doing black pepper, white pepper, a lot of times I will grind that in a coffee grinder or a spice mill. The flavors just pop so much more. When I'm using cumin, I will take that seed and toast it in a dry pan and then cool it, and then once it's cool, grind it, and the flavors just pop so much more. When I'm using celery seed, I like to use it whole because I like this textural thing that happens with it. Another thing that's interesting to me about rubs is I think the flavors kind of, it seems weird, but they actually kind of develop when these ingredients just kind of co-mingle for a while. The rubs will last a really long time in a cool, dark place. But just use fresh spices. So now let's talk about, we've made our rub. Now how do we use it? So I just teach in very simple terms. The bigger the cut, the more rub. The bigger the cut, the more rub. I let it sit on there longer before I cook. The thinner the cut, less rub, and the less time that it's going to be on there. Why? Because rubs have salt in them. Where I come from, we have country hams. We can make gravlax. I think Johan might know a little bit about gravlax, but anyways, gravlax is where we will actually, it's often salmon. We'll cure the fish with the salt. We will cure the hams with the salt. So what I'm looking for when I'm using rubs, when I'm grilling and smoking, is I want flavor development, but I do not want to cure the meat itself. So just think about it like a simple bell graph, and over time it increases in quality, and then it levels off and it starts to come back down. So generally speaking,
how much rub would you say you put on that tri-tip then, Tuffy?
Well, so this is very salt forward, and so the gang yesterday, we were seasoning the meat in batches yesterday because we didn't want it to sit on there too long, but we were also cooking for 900 people. So there's this delicate dance you do when you're feeding that many people. But because this rub is so salt forward, my instruction, well, let's put it on there. We'll cook the meat. We'll do a little slice and we'll taste it. If it wasn't quite enough, we came back in with a little sprinkle of it to reinforce that flavor. But we can always add it. We can't take it away.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's the rub. I've talked about the trimming of the tri-tip, how we're going to slice it with the grain. Another step that's really important with all foods, even French fries, and that's resting. The bigger the cut, the longer the rest. The thinner the cut, the short.
Why is the grain important? Explain why.
The question was, why is the grain important when we go to slice it? If we slice it with the grain, it is so chewy, it's like a rubber band. If we slice it against the grain, the chew is going to be much more tender. Yeah. So cuts like beef tri-tip and beef brisket really benefit. And they're also working muscles too. So you've got this connective tissue and you've got these collagens that have to cook. And so...
so it's technically we're cutting against the muscle fibers. So
that's right.
If a muscle is that shape, that's where the fibers are going to go. So if you cut with that, you're cutting with the fibers. So as Tuffy says, it's going to be really toughy. Sorry, I had to get that one in. Thank you. Right. I didn't even rehearse that.
How were you?
But if you cut against them, you're shortening that. So that's going to have a really nice mouthfeel. But you know what? Experiment. Find out why people say that. Cut it against the grain a little bit and forward with the grain. You'll see. So how's that cooking then, Tuffy? Is
I apologize right now because I speak in Fahrenheit, not Celsius. So
we can convert that.
Yeah.
What are you looking for?
What we're looking for is about 126, 128 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we're going to let it rest.
I'm going to go 55.
55. I'm going to trust that she's right. So resting. I think we think about resting the same way that we think about rubs. The bigger the cut, the bigger the mass of meat, the longer the rest. Steaks, pork chops.
But we got this as a reverse sear, Tuffy. Do we still need to rest it as long as if we reverse sear it, or is it just as important?
No. I think the rest time's going. Did I talk enough about? I don't think I talked about the reverse here. So
we can be here all day for you, Tuffy.
I know.
None of us are going anywhere.
All right, somebody give me a time check. Where are we at there, Doc?
I got you. We got plenty of time.
Right.
Don't you worry.
So reverse sear is the process and what we did with the cooking. And so what is reverse sear? Reverse sear is where we take the meat and we put it on a smoker and we get some nice smoke on there, but we're not really cooking the meat to doneness. We're just getting some smoke on there. I like to treat smoke. That's not me, yay.
That's not me.
I like to treat smoke like salt and pepper. So what does that mean? I want, in this case, this beautiful beef tri-tip that Meatopia got together for us. I want that meat to be the star. I want that to shine. I want the rub and the sauce and the smoke to all be nice, pleasant backdrop flavors to whatever it is that we're cooking. So brisket, I'm going to give more smoke. Pork shoulder, I'm going to give more smoke. Ribs, I'm going to give less smoke than that, but I'm going to give more smoke than chicken. So reverse sear is a really nice way to take steaks and thick chops and cuts like that we don't want to cook super high. You know, we want to cook it rare, medium rare, depending on your taste, maybe medium, but we want to get smoke on there, which I did on the big mill scales. And then we bring it over here to the hot fire, and now we're going to grill and char this to doneness. But the rest time, Sam, I think the rest time just has to do with the mass of the meat and how hot it is. So why do we want to rest it? As we let this meat cool down a little bit, and then we go to slice it, because it's not so hot, you don't have all this thermal energy just pushing out because it's so hot, it cooled down a little bit. We're going to keep a little bit more of the juice inside the meat and have just for better cut. You know, I talked about French fries and resting. So I volunteered years ago, a long time ago, and I helped a famous chef named Alice Waters, and she did this really amazing dish with these big Yukon Golds, and we cut big squares and we boiled them in really salted water, and we cooked them to where they were so tender that it was all you could do to remove them from the water without them breaking. And then we put them on sheet pans, we put them in the walk-in, we got them cold. Then for the pick, or when we went to serve them, we deep fried them in equal parts of clarified butter and duck fat, and they were so creamy and crispy on the outside. But there's a sweet spot with French fries that they're going to eat better. So sometimes it's so easy to get in a rush. We had to fight this yesterday because we were feeding so many people. You got to let the meat rest, and you're just going to be better.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, Tuffy. I mean, I think the reverse searing process does have a different rest time, but everything does need a rest to make it tender, right? Because I'll just chat to you. So you do need to rest it to make it tender. And also, it's not blood that comes out of steaks. I think that's also a mistake that people make. It's actually myoglobin, so it's the thing that carries that blood. So if you don't rest it enough, that's going to come out and it's going to go over your French fries. Is that right, Tuff?
Yes, ma'am, you're right. All right. So we're going to let this rest now. Let's talk about the rest of the dish. I'm a little different in the barbecue world because I started off my cooking career getting yelled at by Chef Alain, who was a French guy. I couldn't understand what he was yelling at me over and what I had done wrong, but I knew I had done wrong.
Anyways, you're French trained, aren't you, Tuffy? Was that your
French yelled at? Yeah. But anyways, Chef Alain lives down the street from me now, which is pretty amazing because I stepped into his kitchen back in 1987. Anyways, let me talk about barbecue real quick. I learned so many hard lessons. Are we good on time?
You're plenty.
I learned so many hard lessons when it came to learning to make barbecue. In fact, I still make learn lessons all the time. I hope I don't learn a lesson in front of y'all today. I hope we were all good, but we're going to find out. But anyways, when I got into barbecue, I just wanted to reconnect as a chef. I needed to have. I think if there's any cooks or chefs out here that do it for a living, they can all relate to just wanting to feed your brain and learn and grow. And so barbecue for me became that path in my career, and it was really interesting to me because I bought a barbecue pit, and I got some hickory, which is a hardwood nearby where I could get all the time, and I made a rub, and I got some pork butts, and I seasoned these pork butts, and I built a fire, and I put all this pork on this pit, and I ruined a big old load of meat.
Really?
And it was so, I think I was surprised because I could make all this hard to pronounce, fancy, expensive food. And I always say barbecue's like the friendliest food. It's the most gregarious cuisine. I think what I've learned about British barbecue, it's about getting outdoors and lighting a fire, and it doesn't matter what we cook, but it's about being outside with your friends and your family.
So barbecue was something to take your mind off the sort of more serious food that you were doing. It started off as a hobby.
It was.
Yeah.
But anyways, I ruined this big old load of meat, Sam, and and it was like, wow. But I fell in love with it. So why did I ruin that meat? And what are probably the mistakes that most people make when they're grilling and smoking for the first time? One is we undercook our when we talk about ribs, pork butts, and brisket, we tend to undercook our meat. Most people, when they cook a brisket for the first time, they undercook it. It's too tough. The other thing we do is we put too much smoke on it. You know, we go get our smoker, and the smoke's coming out of the stack, and you're drinking your beer, and you're like, man, we're just smoking now. Well, a lot of times when you come up to my barbecue pits, you won't see any smoke coming out. I'm going to run a super clean fire. I want a fire that breathes. A fire that doesn't breathe is going to create creosote. It's going to be bitter, and it's going to be off-putting. I read a book by a guy, John Willingham, who was a legend in Tennessee for barbecue, and he said in his book, we're cooking, we're not smoking. He said smoke is dirt, and I really kind of did a television show for a number of years, and the creator of that show was John Marcus, and he gave me the nickname The Professor, and you're only getting a glimpse of it, but in this phone call when he told me that he gave me the nickname The Professor, he went on to say that I could speak for hours on smoke and wood and fire. So you're getting a little glimpse of that, but just I think the best foods in the world are going to have the best chew. We got ice cream here, we got steak here, we got all. But the ones that probably are really standing out for you this weekend are the ones that have the best mouthfeel. So anyways, trying to find that perfect tenderness in my beginning lessons, trying to manage smoke the right way. All right. So we're going to get our team up here because we had so much practice at this yesterday. And how far out are we?
No, you got time. Do you want to cut it on the stage, and we can film it as well? So Tuffy, can we talk about how you first got into competition barbecue?
Yeah.
How did you go from this is a fun hobby and you're working at a French restaurant to I think I could be competitive at this?
So I tell you what, while we're just going to be passing out samples while we continue to talk about this. So all right. As much, I've been so fortunate in competition barbecue. I think what's interesting to me, tell me if you like the doneness.
I like the doneness.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
That is,
all right.
I'm just going to show
so,
that. That's a perfect medium. Look at that.
The reason I got into competition barbecue is I wanted to learn how to make better barbecue.
Yeah.
And so I was getting every book that I could get my hands on. I was making a lot of bad barbecue. My neighbor, Sue Brown, she's been my neighbor for 23 years.
Hi, Sue. Let's all say hi, Sue.
So, you know, when you make barbecue, you got a lot of it, right? Yeah. So I would go across the street, I'd knock on Miss Brown's door. Miss Brown would open up, and I'd say, Miss Brown, I got some barbecue for you. And Sam, she would be so gracious. She's just a really great lady. And she would be so happy that I gave her barbecue. And I kept doing that. And one day I knocked on Miss Brown's door, and Miss Brown opened the door, and I said, Miss Brown, I got some barbecue for you again. And she looked at me, and she said, you know, Tuffy, I still got some of the last barbecue that you gave me.
It was like half an hour ago.
No, that wasn't it. I looked at her, and it dawned on me, she didn't want my barbecue.
Oh.
And I'm like,
Oh.
She don't want my barbecue because it's bad. So, like I said, texture wasn't good, and it was over smoked. So, to answer your question in a windy way, I've learned that there was a competition circuit for barbecue. I mean, who would have thunk, right?
Yeah.
Competition barbecue. So we're gonna cook a piece of meat and we're gonna crack a. It's just an excuse to drink a beer, maybe. I don't know. No, we got some reps over here, and they know that they're steak reps, they're SCA reps, they're barbecue reps, and barbecue's gotten really serious. You know, for something that's supposed to be so casual and relaxed, it's really grown, and competition barbecues all over the world now, but. I only went to sign up for a competition barbecue was because I figured I was going to go meet people there that knew how to make barbecue. And
oh, so you
didn't
went
have anything
to
to do with
learn
it.
from them.
I wanted to go learn.
Oh, I thought you were going to be like a cocky young upstart going, yeah, my barbecue's so good. Sue Brown thinks it's amazing. I should do some competitions.
Sue Brown has no idea how much I bring her up in these classes. I've told her before, but she's a sweetie. But anyway, so competition barbecue, for anybody that's not familiar with competition barbecue, it can be very serious. And it's very specific barbecue. Honestly speaking, it's not one. Is it doing okay?
You're doing great.
All right.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
All right. But anyways, competition barbecue, I often say it's one bite food. And why is it one bite food? Because these judges are going to get somewhere between 6 and 8 samples of really good barbecue. And when they go to judge this, they're going to judge it on presentation. They're going to judge it on taste and tenderness. And there's probably going to be some really good examples of barbecue on that table beside yours. So you really got to make yours step out and shine and leap off the plate. And
But there's all sorts of tricks and stuff that you can do.
So many tricks.
You can inject them, and it's about the look. But the point is that all of that barbecue is all presented in the same way, roughly. That's about right, yeah? So they sat on either like a bed of parsley or lettuce. So it's all got to look right. So you're judged on that. But those judges have got one mouthful. They're going to take one bite, and they're not going to eat any more. And there could be 20, 30, 40, 100 barbecue teams. So you've got to dress to impress on that first bite, right?
So you're really going to push that flavor. Texture's got to be perfect. If your barbecue were to chill, it's still got to have a good chew. Sometimes when we cook ribs or brisket or shoulders, and we don't cook it down until it really gets to tender. If it were to cool off a little bit, sometimes it can get springy and a little chew. You know, Sam, one thing that I realized, I started talking about the French chef, and I was going into the preparation of what we're getting ready to serve you, and it dawned on me that I'm like a squirrel. I just kind of like take off in these. But anyways, so what you're going to see for the rest of this dish is you're going to see a crispy bacon brown butter. And brown butter, I am going to guess that this lady right here beside me is a badass chef. She's come from California, and she kicks ass, and you should follow her on her Instagram because the food that she does is so beautiful. But I'm going to guess that you're very familiar with brown butter. Am I right, Chef?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So brown butter is something that I probably lean on too much because I love it so much. And that's when we just take whole butter and we put it in a pot or a pan or a sauce pot, and we cook it over the stove. And first it's going to bubble up and steam, and then it's eventually going to start to get maybe like that color, and then it's going to maybe get, and we don't want that color. But anyways, we want the color of caramel.
Well, it's that nuttiness, isn't it?
It's so unctuous and nutty, and it's like, actually I did a dinner with Yeti and formerly known as Black Axe Mango Wednesday night
did anybody
with
see
Chef
that
Lee.
on Tuffy's thing? Yeah, you did a collab with Black Axe Mango.
Yeah, and we took brown butter and we made a vinaigrette out of it with peanuts, and it was really yummy. I think it's yummy. If you haven't made it, it's really good. If you make a batch of it, you can also have you ever seen those people that are like cooking those steaks and they got the garlic clove in there, and they're basically eventually that butter's getting nutty and making it really yummy. So we've got the tri-tip, we've got the crispy bacon brown butter. I just think that's nice.
So are that these pieces here that I saw, Tuffy?
They are.
Like,
so we got Doc over there and team making.
So this looks like sort of crumbed bacon.
Now y'all go. All right. So what is streaky bacon? Sliced?
It's okay. So we use back bacon.
You got to give them back the bacon.
Streaky bacon is like the tail of the back bacon. So it's all obviously one piece, but we use the back bacon. You'll like the streaky bacon.
All right, so we got the bacon.
It's what you would call bacon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we got streaky bacon,
Yes.
crispy, and we got brown butter, and then day before yesterday I made a balsamic reduction. So if you just take balsamic vinegar, and I think all of this recipe. Y'all want a little piece of trivia about this recipe? So I was doing a television show, and it was the Kingsford Invitational. I don't think y'all have Kingsford over here in the UK. Kingsford's a charcoal.
We have the charcoal, yeah.
Anyways, they had a big a big competition, and part of this competition was a one-bite challenge. And we had a bunch of famous people not only competing, famous cooking people, not only competing, but we also had famous people judging. And you could only do 5 ingredients. And so this recipe was by one-bite challenge. And we won $5,000 for the one-bite challenge with this. But anyways, I like it a lot. I lean on this too much, too. I've decided I got to go home, and then the fall and the winter, I got to reinvent myself with recipes and do new stuff. But sometimes you become a creature of habit with what you like. But this balsamic vinegar, if we take and you just put I had some fresh bay leaves, some fresh thyme, some peppercorns, some garlic cloves, the balsamic vinegar, and I basically reduce it down by half. And what starts to happen as we cook that down is it becomes like a syrup. And so I think the unctuous, fatty, brown butter, crispy, that robust, savory celery seed rub, and then you get this brightness from the balsamic drizzle that just kind of like makes it just a really clean bite. When I hit the dish right, it's really good. Because we reverse seared, we're able to get nice smoke on the tri-tip, because I wanted a little bit bigger smoke. If you, has anybody out here been to Texas and had Texas barbecue? You know, one of those things that you're going to experience is it's just some nice smoke. When COVID hit, I always thought being a chef was like being a plumber. Is there any plumbers out here? I always thought being a plumber, I always thought being a chef
that was Saturdays. Plumber days is Saturdays. This is Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah, this is roofers and sparkies today.
Anyways, I always thought being a chef was like being a plumber, and then when COVID hit, I realized, no, they still need plumbers. They don't need us cooks. But so anyways, I was making these Sunday suppers, and I was doing these chickens, these beautiful chickens, and I was brining these chickens and then air chilling them all night to dry up that skin, and then just doing a simple seasoning of salt and some fresh cracked black pepper and some granulated garlic. By the way, if you're ever using dried garlic and rubs, I prefer granulated garlic over powdered garlic. It sprinkles better, so that's just my preference.
Is that like almost like the minced garlic?
No,
or
it's smaller than that.
It's
like granular.
So not powder.
It's thinner than this salt, but it's not powder.
Gotcha.
Anyways, it just sprinkles better. Anyways, I was cooking these chickens and just kind of like reevaluating my career and trying to make these chickens just so
Chickens
perfect.
will do that to you, won't they?
Well, and COVID certainly, especially if you were a cook.
Yeah.
But anyways, what I learned, sometimes it's your mood. And sometimes I want it a little smokier than other times. Sometimes I just want to pop in the face with smoke. And sometimes I just want a little wisp of smoke. So how do we do that? We've got to let that fire breathe. You know, we've got to use good charcoal. I have worked with, is it Choppy that has this?
Yeah.
Anyways, I met Choppy. He came to the dinner. He's a cool cat. But his fuel is really great. And I think just some general guiding lights for me when I'm cooking. You know, I always recommend buying the best meat that you can afford. I'm looking for the most marbled meat that I can find. I do not subscribe to not cleaning the pit after a cook. People talking about, it's flavor. I always clean my grill. So that's really important to me. You know, fresh spices, sharp knives, good fuel. But that smoke, I think we can play around with it a little bit. We don't want sooty smoke. We don't want bitter smoke. Sooty, bitter smoke's going to come from a fire that doesn't breathe. But nice, pleasant smoke is really enjoyable. And and it's just your mood. I mean, I don't want to cook food that you're kind of like belching smoke afterwards. But anyways, with these
which can be that is a symptom of over smoking. Tuffy, we're off. I think we're drawing to a close on this demo. I don't want it to end.
Well,
either.
the good news is everybody's getting food, so that's the most important thing,
and
right?
they haven't had to queue for it. You're very considerate getting these guys up here to cut it. And I suppose the last thing, I guess, I wanted to ask you, I mean, those are some great tips for us. And listen, I think we are good at British barbecue. I think we are good at cooking. That's right? We're good at it, aren't we?
It's everywhere around us. It's amazing. I mean, what is over there is world class, right?
Yeah, so this is one of the best festivals in Europe for fire. You've got the best of the best cooking there. You've got a really good host on the stage.
I know. That's good. Everybody give Sam a big round of applause.
You're very kind. But I've traded at this festival for 7 years, and for me it's an invitational festival, which you'd know something about. You know, it's a real honor to be invited.
It's an honor to be here. For us cooks to be at these stations, it's a real honor. And you're seeing a lot of cooks coming in here that want to be at these stations. It's y'all have curated a really one-of-a-kind special event.
Well, and listen, you've blessed us by coming, and I mean, it's a real gift for us to have somebody with your skills, your energy, your wisdom, the professor on the stage for us. If you were going to just leave us with one pearl of wisdom, all us keen cooks out there, all us keen people that want to do barbecue, what would be the one thing that you would say to us?
It's going to be a little bit repetitive because I think it's so important.
No, we want to hear it again. We just don't want you to go.
We want to treat smoke like salt and pepper, right? It's good smoke.
So
Put
smoke
it on there.
is a flavor profile.
You know, I coined this phrase, the stereotypical expected flavors of barbecue. What the hell does that mean? Well, it means, I used to come into these barbecue contests with making brisket and thinking, oh, I'll bet demi-glace and white truffle salt will be good on brisket. And they are. But I'm here to tell you, don't take it to a barbecue competition because they've got So what is stereotypical expected flavors of barbecue? So it's the meat be the star. It's seasonings like salt and black pepper and garlic and onion, those kind of things, and then there's smoke. But we want to use smoke in the right way, and then I think it's how much seasoning do we put on there for how long? Learn your. Does anybody out here have a smoker?
Yeah, hands up. Hands up, barbecue or smoker.
So we got a lot of people that have a smoker. So depending on what kind of smoker you have, if you've got an offset, if you have not cooked on it before, and you're like, you finally convinced your spouse to get it, and you finally got it in the backyard. One of the things that I like to do with a smoker for the very first time is I like to, y'all call them.
Got a load of fat.
You don't call them biscuits. What do y'all call them?
Scones.
Scones. All right. So I love the way y'all talk. Everybody says that. Everybody thinks I'm from Texas. I'm from Virginia. It's because of the way I talk. Y'all think I'm from Texas. But I've had so many people say that I have an accent, but I think y'all have an accent personally.
We do. We do.
Anyways, if you got a smoker for the very first time, build a fire, get it hot, get it up to about 275 degrees Fahrenheit, 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and then get you some biscuits or some scones and place them all over the cooking surface and close the doors and let them cook for about 15 minutes. And when you open the doors, you'll be able to tell how they browned, how your heat travels. So like if anybody...
So we're going from, because the dough is so susceptible, it'll show us hot spots.
Yeah, it'll show us hot spots. So it's a really... So if this was our cooking surface, I don't know if anybody... I did a television show for 6 years called Barbecue Pitmasters, and the first season...
We might have seen it.
So for the first season, I cooked on this red Jambo pit. It was an offset. The cooking surface is probably about this big, thereabouts. And so I did the biscuit test when I first got it. So my fire was here. I got the pit up to 275 degrees. My smokestack was there. And I put biscuits all over it. And what I learned is over here and over here and over here really kind of brown more than right in here. And then I use that information to place my meat. So I'll put my bigger cuts in the hotter spots and my thinner cuts in the less spots. I'm sorry.
No.
I got one more nugget.
I tell you, give us another nugget.
I got one more nugget.
We're here for Tuffy's nuggets.
So I was cooking in Kansas City one time, and it was raining all day. It was raining so much, and so I was like, I had a squeegee. I don't know what y'all call those over here, but I had a squeegee, and I was getting the rain off my pit, and it was just pouring. anyways, we go to awards, and I get first place in pork, but more important than that, I got a perfect score, and it was the first time I ever got a perfect score in pork. And I was so excited. And anyways, I was driving home from this competition, which was about 1,000 miles, which is what, about, I don't know, how many kilometers is 1,000 miles?
Yeah, lots.
But anyways, a lot. And I'm driving, and I'm thinking about this, and all of a sudden, I feel like I'm pretty observant. All of a sudden, I felt so dumb. I was like, I figured out something. This is where the nugget comes in. I learned that my barbecue was always better when it rained. Now, y'all have no problem with that here, right? So with this barbecue and the humidity in the air, taking these long, big, tough cuts of meat, I got better product when there was moisture in the air. So I was like...
So do you think that's what it did? So basically it was cooling down the smoke and maybe even creating
It
some
wasn't
more
doing it.
humidity.
It was just moisture
Humidity,
on the meat. And so I decided I was going to figure out how to make it rain all the time. So in my pit, I put a water pan over here. It creates a little bit of steam during the cook. And if you ever see any of my videos that I do where I'm teaching, I spritz and spray all the time. A lot of times my go-to is apple juice. Sometimes it's water. Some of the guys down in in Texas, they like to do cider vinegar.
That's right,
but I try to keep some moisture on the exterior of these meats for these big, long cooks. And it just makes for a better product. So I would think about moisture as well.
All right. Well, on that note, please put a big Meatopia hand together for the man, the legend, the professor, Tuffy Stone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all so much.
Wow.
Thank you.
Well, that was... yeah, there's a lot of people calling, you know. Tuffy will be hanging around. You'll probably still find him up the store. I've just seen him be hugely generous with everybody that's asked him a question. He's an amazing guy, so feel free to approach him. So we've just got one more demo left, people. Let me just get... Yeah, we've got Tanya Olivier next. She is a Mexican chef from Baja, California, and she's going to cook us something really delicious. So don't go away. We'll be back at 4 o'clock with our 5 o'clock for our final demo.